For those that don't know, I've been building up my movie collection for the past several years, and it's always fun to take a look back at films I own and go, what was I thinking? Well, some I won't dare touch until I inevitably make a video about it. There's others I've been curious to go back and revisit, but have never felt the urge to. Well, since it's the month of spooks and specters, I thought this would be the perfect time to revisit the first R-rated movie I saw, Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters. Released back in 2013, this film stars Jeremy Renner and Gemma Arterton and takes the story of Hansel and Gretel and decides to turn it into an over-the-top gore fest of action and scares. When it came out, this film was destroyed by critics and wasn't met with that much praise from audiences either. It quickly faded into obscurity and hasn't really been talked about since. And honestly, I don't think it should have. Now, let me make it clear that I don't think this is an especially amazing film, but having not seen it in almost a decade, it was kind of a breath of fresh air. Since this film came out, blockbusters like this started fading away and made way for things like Marvel, DC, and Star Wars to take the spotlight. While there's still plenty of action films not related to those that still come out, this is the kind of action film that you don't see anymore. Over the top, very gory and violent, having real sets, makeup, and some pretty goddamn good practical effects. It's just not done anymore, and that's a shame. I think the funniest thing about this film is when you started, you see the MTV Films and Gary Sanchez Productions logo pop up. Two companies known for making films that are nothing at all like this one. It's strange to see that people like Will Ferrell and Adam McKay produce this, because this isn't really a comedy or satire. Sure, it has elements, but for the most part, it's a fairly straightforward and serious story. I don't know how they came to be involved with it, but I need answers and I need them now. Easily, the best part of this movie is its action. While its action fights are fairly standard, what makes it work is the high energy and creativity in each fight. You can see these actors getting tossed and thrown into all manner of things, you feel the weight of each punch, and you see our heroes get the shit beat out of them and being tired during a fight. That kind of rawness is really only reserved for your John Wicks or nobodies, and to see it here make it that much more fun. But probably my favorite aspect is its creativity with its weapons. Despite clearly being set sometime in the 1600s, there is all manner of handguns, shotguns, Gatling guns, grenades, rifles. This film could give less than two shits that this stuff didn't exist back then, and honestly, that makes it even better. Each weapon has a cool design and feel to it, and some have special fire powers and modes to them that help them stand out. Honestly, this film needed even more action to show off the other creative weapons they have. And that's where this film can falter. While the first half of the film keeps the energy high with a good balance of action and story, once the second half starts, that's when it starts to go downhill. There's far less action and the film starts going at a snail's pace, and you can really start to see the cracks in the film. You begin to notice the villains aren't that interesting and the side characters really don't have much to them and don't have much of a purpose at all for being there. While the narrative of the film is a simple one, it gets harder to stay engaged in the second half because there isn't much that's moving the plot forward. But despite the faults of the narrative, it honestly didn't bother me that much. What kept me engaged and intrigued was seeing all of these sets and practical makeup and effects that were in the film. This movie only uses CG and green screens when it needs to, and it was so nice to see that. Every witch has a cool and unique design to them, and the world feels real and lived in. I know a lot of people are immediately going to say that it's Marvel's fault for an overuse of green screen, but when you look at most modern blockbusters, they all do this. Even if there's little to no green screen or just a mixture of it, the world doesn't feel lived in and just feels hollow and empty. But here, there's a real village full of people, caves for witches that feel creepy and disturbing that makes me more intrigued to see what's inside. Hell, there's a fucking giant troll in this that's done entirely with practical effects and makeup, and it's awesome! These days, that character would be CG and no one would bat an eye, but fucking Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters is the one to go practical?
What is going on?
Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters has honestly gotten better with age. When it came out, you still have a variety of action and fantasy films that were very similar to this in certain ways, so this didn't really stand out. But now, with the overload of Marvel and other major blockbusters that use mostly CGI, this has strangely become better with more time. While time doesn't fix its narrative or character problems, it does fix it with how we view special effects and makeup. While this isn't going to get a sequel, I think this idea would be ripe for a TV show. The premise that's fun, action and weaponry that feels unique and distinct, and doing practical makeup and effects rather than overloaded with CGI, why hasn't a streaming service gotten on board with this? While there's going to be people that won't care about the effects and action and will think it's generic or not great, for those that want a fun action movie this Halloween that feels different, this honestly won't be a bad one for you to check out.